Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 6, entitled The Price. And this is the penultimate episode of Season 2, the second to last, before we get to the season finale next week. And let me just start off by saying this episode is running a race with the best of the season so far. I loved this episode. Yeah, we didn't have infected all over the screen. We didn't have a big battle. We didn't have shootouts. We didn't have all that good stuff that a lot of people watch this show for or even played the game for. But as far as writing and directing and acting, this was top notch to me. I absolutely loved this episode for so many reasons that I just named, but one in particular, we got the return of Pedro Pascal as Joel in this episode, who we all know tragically passed away. The character of Joel, not Pedro Pascal, thank God, not yet. He his character returned in the form of flashbacks. This was a flashback episode that, was teased last episode previously, and it was good to see him back on screen. Very good to see him back on screen. It's one of those things where you kind of, I don't know, downgrade the previous episodes that didn't have Pedro Pascal, and it's not that the quality was bad. Those episodes were good for what they were. Bella Ramsey did a great job, leading this show. But it's just, man, Pedro Pascal is so awesome as Joel, and you missed him. You really did. You really, at least for me, I'm speaking for me here, I really started missing him last week. That's when it really dawned on me that, man, we really need Joel. As much as I love Bella Ramsey as Ellie, as much as I love Isabella Marcet as Dana, they're doing a phenomenal job, but it's just, man, I miss Joel. I really do. And I needed this. I really did. I really needed my Joel fix, man. I needed a shot of Joel into my veins. And we got a Joel heavy episode. This episode was directed by Neil Druckmann, who is the creator of the actual source material. He created the games, and he directed, I think, one episode last season. I can't remember which one right off the top of my head, but this season, this is the one that he chose to direct, and I see why. I see why he did, because this was pretty much the anchor of The Last of Us Part 2, the video game. This portion of the game, I just a report. I went through and I finally finished the game. If you followed my previous reviews, I was like, man, I'm up to this point. I haven't finished it yet. I don't know what's gonna happen next. Well, I went on ahead, I committed to it, and I just went through it, blazed through it. Well, not blazed through it. That's a lie. It was a task, but I got through it, and so it refreshed a lot of my kind of questions, going into this season. But it also it kind of made me mad because I spoiled myself unintentionally. Well, I guess it was intentionally, but I just wanted to finish it to kind of get a better grasp of this reviews that I'm giving here. And so in doing that, I kind of like, oh man, I wish I hadn't played the game. But this portion, I did get through the first iteration of my trying to get through the game when I first bought it. And I got up to this point where we got the flashbacks with Ellie remembering her birthday surprise, with them going to the museum. We had the dinosaur, we had the space museum, and her in inside of that capsule and imagining going into space. All of that's from the game, and it was good to see it in live action. And so that was a nice touch. It was also a real nice touch to go through these different birthdays, this 3 year span, if you will, or 3.5 year span, and to see the different stages of the relationship between Joel and Ellie. You know how she went from 15 to 19, and how things pretty much slowly disintegrated. Their relationship, and man, it was heartbreaking to watch. So heartbreaking to watch, and because the end result of everything, and it was just fine writing, even though what happens, uh, uh, the demise of Joel and all this here, you still pulling for these two characters to come together, to stay together, to show love for one another, and to see it slowly decline was heartbreaking. And when we get to the point where we picked up at the beginning of the season, where they're on this kind of rift, they're not speaking to one another, and Ellie is fully defiant towards Joel, and then the next thing you know, Joel is murdered. Is like, man, they never got closure. They never got that closure, because nothing's worse, knowing somebody, and I can speak to this because I had somebody close to me who passed away a couple of years ago, and we weren't speaking at the time that they passed away, and that's something that sticks with you. There's something that doesn't go anywhere, and it's a hurtful feeling because you can never get closure. Neither one of us can say, I'm my bad, I'm sorry, or I was wrong, or let's just let it go, move on. That's just that. It's final, and it hurts. And so you're thinking that about Ellie and Joel, that they never got that moment. Well, this episode shines a light on that, to whereas we saw that they actually did speak after that little dust up at the New Year's ball or dance or whatever it was in Jackson. And that scene there. But before we get to that scene, let's catch up to where we are. The previous episode, we saw Ellie corner, is it Noah or Nora, I believe her name is, corner her in the hospital. We get the introduction of the spores. Nora is infected by the spores. She finds out that Ellie is the girl. She's the immune girl and whatnot, and Ellie beats her to death for information to find out where Abby is. And as she's doing this, she's pretty much transferred into Joel at that moment, because that's something Joel would do, or what had happened to Joel, to be honest with you. And so it was fitting to get this flashback episode at this point, to review their relationship. And so we pick up where it's a surprise birthday for Ellie. Joel gets a cake made, but the cake says Eli instead of Ellie. He makes this guitar for her to teach her how to play guitar, and that's where the guitar comes from. And very sweet scene. We flash forward to a year later, and we get the scene from the game where he takes her to this museum with all of the space stuff, gives her the tape, the cassette, for all the young folks out there who thought that was the most prehistoric thing ever. But that's that's a cassette. That's something that my generation used to make mixtapes on, and record off of radios, record our favorite songs and stuff like that. And there's a recording of the actual moon landing, or the takeoff, liftoff of a shuttle, and really, really good scene. I was wondering, since this was live action, if they were really going to spend some money and get some visual effects of Ellie going off into space and whatnot, but they didn't. And I'm really glad that they didn't. they kept it subtle, they kept it real intimate, and it just made it more. Sometimes less is more, and this was a great decision by the showrunners here, to just do less is more. To give the let your imagination, as Ellie's imagination is taking her off this planet, allow your imagination to do the same. And I thought that was a really, really great decision by Neil Druckmann and everybody involved here. And so the next birthday we get, this is when Joel walks in and Ellie got a girl in the room, and she's getting the tattoo over her bite, and all this other good stuff, which caused a little rift there. Ellie is like, hey, I need my own space here. I'm not a little kid anymore. And Joel is treating her, like a little kid. And you're experimenting with girls and all this here. And, Ellie's like, well, it's not an experiment, because she's into other females. And so it was a thing. And that was a nice little callback, but it was set up a little earlier in the scene when they were walking, and Joel was asking her about the relationship between her and Ellie. I mean, not Ellie, it was Ellie and Jason. And he was like, oh, y'all really close and all this here. And, and Ellie's like, no, no, ain't nothing there. But, us as the viewers, we know, but Joel is in the blind here. And I thought that was cute. But she's into girls, and she wants to move into the garage, and so she can have her own space and all this other good stuff. And so they end up working that out. So we get to the point where it's the next birthday, and Ellie is rehearsing this speech that she has, or these line of questions that she has, because she's been thinking about this ever since the end of season 1, when Joel took her from the Fireflies, and he told her that the Raiders came and killed all the Fireflies, and they had more immune people and all this other good stuff. Basically lied, just told her a flat out lie. And she has her questions about it, and we all question that, does Ellie know, at the end of season 1, because she gave that pause when she asked him and made him promise, and he promised, like it was the truth. And she just gave that look like she knew he was lying. And she just went with it because this is the one person that she loves. That's the only person she has left on this earth. And she knows that Joel loves her and would do anything for her. And whatever he did it for her best interest. But she just can't pinpoint what the truth is here. But she knows there's something afoul. And so that leads us to this, where she's prepared to ask the hard questions and get the answers. And so she finally gets to go out on patrol with Joel, and they get a call to go help another team on patrol. And one of those guys in that patrol was Eugene. Eugene is the husband of Gail, the psychiatrist, who's played by Catherine O'Hara here. And man, look, just a slight pause there. Catherine O'Hara. Now, this character, from what I, unless I missed it, blinked and I missed it, is created for the show. She's not a part of the game. But what a great addition to this show, and especially with Catherine O'Hara, who is phenomenal in this role. But I digress. We get to the part where they meet up with Eugene. Now, Eugene is another character. He is in the game, but he's not in the game. Eugene in the game, he spoke of, but we don't get to see him. I think all we see is like a picture of him, and that's it. There's no real scenes with him, no real levels in the game with that character. And, that kind of works out as it did here. The character was small, the role was small, but it was effective. Joey Pants, man. Joey Pantoliano plays Eugene. And when he was cast, I thought they were going to expand that role a little bit more. But as the season was going on and we never got to see him, I was like, man, when are we going to get to Joey Pants, man? Where is, because I love Joey Pants, Joe Patliano. Uh, well, it was here. It was one scene, maybe two, or one and a half if you want to get technical. Man, heartbreaking. This is where the heartbreak started to roll out for the remainder of this episode. The character of Eugene was there to expose the lie in Ellie's eyes for Joel. Because Ellie made Joel promise that he wasn't going to kill Eugene because Eugene was bitten by an infected. He was going to turn. That part is accurate. He was going to turn, but he had time. She did the little test with him that they put her through. The Fireflies put her through when she was first bitten, and he didn't have the shakes and so on and so forth. So he had time because he wanted to see his wife. He wanted to see Gail one last time, and Joel being Joel wanted to just straight up kill him. Right there, right then and there. But Ellie, quote unquote, convinced him not to do it. And so they walked off and they got to this creek. And that's when the realization set in for Eugene that, he's not going there. That Joel walked him there to kill him, to put him out of his misery of sorts. And man, such a heartbreaking scene for Eugene because he was like, Joel told him, like, look, if you got any last words, let me know. I'll tell her. And his line was, oh my God, it's so cry. I don't know if I could get through it, but he was like, man, I don't want to give her my last words. I want her last words. And the way he delivered, I'm doing it zero justice. But the way he delivered that line was so heartbreaking. He was like, man, I just want to see her face. I want that to be the last thing I see. And Joel, being Joel, in probably the most compassionate way Joel can be, he was like, man, if you really love her, you can see her face all the time. And he, Eugene just took a breath, took off his glasses, and just thought about it, and he's like, I can see her. And we don't hear the gunshot. This was great direction by Neil Druckmann. It was a pan out wide shot, and we see the little horizon on top of the trees. And all we hear, well, we don't hear nothing. Well, we do. We hear the birds flying off. And we see the birds flying off, which indicates that there was a gunshot. And I thought that was beautiful, that we didn't get to hear the gunshot. Something kind of poetic about that. And Ellie, she rides up and sees it, and Joel just said, I'm sorry, He was like, I had no choice. And so when they get back to Jackson, and he informs Gail, and he tells Gail just lies, man. And he didn't have to do it. All he had to do was say he was bitten, and left it alone. But Joel just doing too much, just being extra, as my kids would say, and just going on and on. Yeah, he told me to tell you he loved you, and he did it himself. When the time came, he did it himself. And Gail just ran into his arms and hugged him. And this is the scene where I was like, Catherine O'Hara is killing it, because her acting here was this. Oh my God, it was soul crushing. And Joel is comforting her, and then Ellie she just couldn't take it no more. she just couldn't take it. You're like, you lied. That's a lie. That's not how it happened. And she told the truth of what happened. And it was just like, what? And Gail just pushed them off and whatnot. And so that started the riff. And that was it right there. And the reason Ellie was so fired up about this When Joel lied to her about Eugene, it was the same look that he gave her when he told her that what happened in Seattle with the Fireflies. It was the same look, and that's how she knew it was a lie. And when we get to the scene where after the little scuff up at the New Year's Eve thing, and she returns to the house, Joel's sitting on the porch, and she walks past. And then the next thing you know, she comes back, and they're talking. And this scene here broke me. No lie. It broke me to the core. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, if they don't get Emmys for this scene alone, it's rigged. It is rigged, and it's no way. Bruh, you want to talk about master class of acting. Oh my God. She acts and she tells him exactly what I just told you about the face. You made the face and you lied. So tell me, was that the truth? What happened with the Fireflies? Were they more immune? And Pedro Pascal, his acting here, his eyes just filled up with water, man, and filled up with tears, and he's just couldn't speak. You know how it is when you crying and your jaw lock up. You know that that's where he was at, and he couldn't speak, and so he just had to shake his head, like, no, there are no more. And she asked, were there raiders? And he just all he could do is shake his head. I mean, at this point, it is what it is. You got to come with the truth. And he finally reveals that he did what he did for her, because the cure would have killed you. It would have killed you. Yes, they could have made a cure, but it would have killed you. And this goes full circle to the opening scene here, which was a further flashback when Joel and Tommy were younger, and their father, who was a policeman, we get that reveal. Javier, I think his name, Javier Miller. He was played by Tony Dalton, who, if you watched Hawkeye, he was the swordsman on Hawkeye. But anywho's, he used to discipline Tommy and Gabriel. And Tommy and Gabriel. Tommy and Joel. But Joel is the oldest and whatnot. And it was a beautiful scene there where the father was telling Joel that, when the time comes, I hope that you'll do a better job at being a father than me. Just to sum it up without going through that whole scene. And we come full circle to this scene at the end of this episode when Joel tells Ellie the exact same thing. You don't understand why I did what I did. But if you have the chance later on to have children for yourself, a child for yourself, hopefully you'll understand, and hopefully you'll do a better job than me. And man, that just, oh my God, because everybody here is a child of somebody. I don't know if everybody listening is a parent, but everybody is a child of a parent. And so, as a parent, you want your children to do better than you, and so on and so forth. Your parents wanted you to do better than them, and so on. And man, it just hit home with me. And Ellie, in excellent response to this, it says, I don't think I could ever forgive you, but I'm gonna try. And that was it. Niagara Falls for me. It was like beautiful episode. If you can't tell, I loved this episode. This is what the show is to me. Yes, it's good that we have these zombie affected things running around killing people and whatnot. Yeah. You get the wolves, you got the scars and all these other factions and all that. All that's fine and good. But when we get deep drama like this is what hooks me in. This is what hooked me into the game. I could care less about the gameplay. I was all into the story of the games. That's why I love The Last of Us. And this show is doing that turned up to 11 in my eyes. Yes, great episode. I'm very curious how the season finale would turn out because there's a lot more to explore. Now I know we're getting to season 3, thank God, and I'm pretty sure it's all going to play out in season 3. But I don't know when the end point. Thinking back during the duration of the game, where would be a good time to end this season to lead into season 3? But hey, we gotta wait another week and then we'll find out. But this was awesome. They could have ended the season right here, to be honest with you, if it was me. If I was running the show. This was a great episode. Really great acting, great direction, great writing. And hey man, I miss Joel. I really do. But I would like to know, what did you think of episode 6? Did you enjoy it? Are you still fully engaged in the Last of Us universe here? Or are you still on the fence after the untimely demise of Joel? I know a few people who have checked out, man. They just couldn't do it. They couldn't do it after Joel died. And I get it, but I love this material too much. But I would like to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Concession Stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 6, entitled The Price. The penultimate episode. One more to go this season. Want you all to know I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.